Welcome to the SARE Ladies Podcast, the sister brand of Subtle Asian Real Estate, where our mission is to get more people that look like us participating in the real estate industry. We invite experts to not just talk about real estate, but also about our unique identity as Asian women and the cultural values that shape who we are as investors. I'm Anita Wong.
And I'm Tiffany Lee. We're both real estate agents and investors based in the Bay Area and New York City. Whether you're a seasoned real estate pro or just starting out, there's something for everyone here. So pour yourself a glass of wine or boba tea and join us as we celebrate the achievements and unleash the untapped potential of AAPI women in the real estate industry.
Welcome to the SARE Ladies Podcast.
Now let's get on with the show. But first, a word from one of our fabulous sponsors. Dr. Hua Win and her husband, Dr. Jaime Gonzalez, both optometrists by trade and owners of multiple multi-million-dollar optometry practices in the Dallas area, founded Black Steel Investment Group with a passion to invest to impact. With the foundation forged on three pillars, integrity, community, and legacy, they put their investors at the forefront of everything they do. The couple are both seasoned, full-time, multifamily investors, syndicators, and asset managers who, together with their investors, have invested in over 6,900 units as general and or limited partners in Texas, Arizona, Florida, and the Carolinas, with total assets valued at over $480 million. Juan and Jaime are always working to find new investment opportunities for their investors. The couple enjoys traveling the world for delicious food and interesting cultures with their 8-year-old daughter Athena and have a puppy named Coco Ollie. Now on to the show.
Welcome everyone to another episode of SARE Ladies. Today we have a bit of a special episode. Today's episode is admittedly somewhat unplanned on our schedule, but something a lot of people have been hounding me about. So to get it on the way, I'm here with my friend, Sam Fong, who has been on this podcast before. Today, we'll be having our podcast together, sans my co-host, Tiffany, so we can intimately talk about this big experience that Sam and I had recently, which is obvious by our title, but he and I hiked Mt Kilimanjaro together, the highest mountain in Africa. So today we will touch on that a bit, what our experience was like and what we learned from it. And just a teaser, Sam and I are working on a special project somewhat correlated with this. So listeners, you're hearing it first, that Sam and I will be writing a book together. Such a release? Well, you're going to have to find out. Today, however, we won't talk too much about that. And neither will we be doing a deep dive on his extensive private equity or real estate career. So if you want to check that out, go to our show notes so you can have a listen to our podcast, other podcasts with Sam. So without further ado, say hi, Sam.
Hello.
So how have you been settling back? What is the most shocking thing to you being back in the U.S. after having our Africa experience?
Something that was immediately apparent was after we regained access to internet, the quality of our conversations and the length of our conversations immediately dropped. During the days that we were on the mountain, it was uninterrupted. We had like great conversations and so on, but everyone went back to checking social media, emails, and work right after we regained access to internet. So I think that was
you're like can you tell our listeners a little bit about like the format of our trip? And let's just start of like just in general, like how long was it? How long was our trip there? Everything like that. Maybe you want to answer that?
Yeah. So we had roughly a 2-week trip together. We started out with climbing the mountain first. It was an 8-day expedition to summit Mount Kilimanjaro and get back down. And then immediately afterwards, we would get down and do a 5-day safari across 3 national parks in Tanzania. So another thing about the format of this trip was that none of us had actually really traveled together before. So all of us took kind of like a risk on each other. It was like 7.
I think I have traveled with some from those friends before. I call them my adventure friends. And then Sam, I just saw during Christmas break or Christmas or something. And I'm like, Sam, I'm going to do this thing. Do you want to come? And he basically said, yeah, sure. Let me see if I have time off. And basically that's how it started.
Right? Yeah, definitely. we had that great conversation about how our travel styles were actually really similar. And I was like, man, next time Anita goes on a trip, I'm totally down. And you came up with this Kilimanjaro trip, like, a couple of weeks later. I was like, I'm down. So I was committed from the get-go.
Yeah, so what was okay, so as Sam said, so this was the Mount Kilimanjaro portion, which was our first part, was an 8-day camping trip. So no internet, no anything. We had to, camp outdoors. Um, so what was your thoughts leading up to it? Also, what was your training strategy going up to this thing?
So I hadn't had Tanzania on my immediate like top 5 list to travel to before this trip, but once I heard about it and I did a bit of research about it, I was like, oh, I'm all in. You get to do the safari, you get to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. It's actually one of the most achievable 7 summits, one of the highest mountains on each continent. So I was really excited about that. And I knew that it would take a lot of training and, at least a decent baseline of exercise and fitness level because of all the reading, especially for summit day.
So what
So
did you actually do? I know what
my,
you should do, but what
yeah,
did you actually do?
I regret to say that I should have trained more. I
Sure.
kind of relied on my baseline level of fitness a lot, but I did train. So basically, I would put on a weighted backpack, like maybe 25 pounds, 27 pounds or so, and then I would just do stairs, like nonstop stairs for like an hour or two.
I would
Um,
say for listeners out there that Sam's baseline is very high. I think comparatively to maybe the average person, like he has a history in wrestling and Muay Thai and like all this stuff. So I'm just like,
Thank you, thank you.
you just had to train a little bit. I think.
I don't know. I should have trained more.
But
Um,
I mean, okay, so I think from the inception of the idea, I think how long was it? It was like 4 months or something like that. So we had about 4 months to train. I thought I was being really thorough. I actually hired, I mean, I had a trainer, and then we worked together on creating a plan for me. So we did all of that, the weighted training, the hiking, the all that stuff. But I will say there is nothing that could have prepared me for that kind of altitude whatsoever. And for those that don't know, Mount Kilimanjaro is over 19,000 feet, and 19,314, I think, to be exact. And at 16,000, just to give a little bit of perspective, your effective oxygen rate cuts by half. So the altitude for that is just insane. For me at that time, the highest thing I've ever done was maybe Mount Whitney, I think comparatively, which is still thousands off of what Kilimanjaro was. And I even remember doing Half Dome and getting altitude sickness. And so I was
oh wow.
I was freaking out about the altitude. I did know that there was medication that would be provided. That was part of our tour, and not our tour, but Tanzania and Kilimanjaro, they require for you to have porters. So you have to go with a tour. And um, Sam, what was your experience of our first experience with our tour guides, our tour team, let's say?
I would say I thought it was a joke that we had so many people. I think all of us have been used to backpacking. Like you carry everything on your back, and then everything you bring is what you got. And then they showed up with a huge crew. I always ask. It's like a party trick now. Like I always ask my friends who ask me about this trip, like, hey, how many people, how many porters do you think we had? And what's like the highest number you can imagine? Some people say like, oh, 7, because we got 7 climbers. Some people say like, 10. I say like, imagine your highest number possible. They say, okay, 20. And then I tell them the real number, which is 34 people, 31 porters
Crazy.
and 3 guides, which is
Uh,
insane.
when they
So
started lining up, I was like shocked. I was just like,
yeah,
wait. I had first assumed that was like 10 to 14, which is like I would see, like I that's even crazy for me. I would like I did Machu Picchu, and there was only three of them for maybe like 10 of us or something like that. But oh my gosh, 34 people that supported 7 of us, which was a private tour. And just a name a name plug. We used Alteza, which was I think one of like the highest rated ones, the tour teams that were out there. And it was it was such a great experience, like 34 people, but that like what we were, it was a big team, but they were also really properly making sure that they were supporting all of the porters that were coming up with us, right? Because there's
Yeah.
a lot of horror stories out there about porters dying on this route. And so I mean, our team was properly fed, even had their own, like porters had their chef, or the climbers had their chef. So they were all being properly fed, and it was a really great thing to see. And they're like, there's 34 of us, but they're all very happy to be here. Like they are very happy to be, that you're providing jobs for them to go up this mountain. So
Yeah.
yes, it was 30. I was like 34, great. All of them can take a turn by rolling me up to the top if it doesn't work out.
Yeah, I thought it was a joke at first that there were so many people. I was like, how many other climbers are coming with us? And when they said it was just us, I was like, wow, this is a lot of people. But it was really great, like the whole experience. And I think we're all in agreement about this, that the company really went above and beyond. Like all the people
Yes.
were really friendly. They made sure every single thing that we had a question about or that we needed help on, they had an answer for it. I just felt very confident in the team, and I think that helped me to kind of push myself more and be comfortable with the
Yeah.
levels that we were dealing with.
Yeah, to me, I was just like, well, in any sort of hike that requires oxygen tanks, I will probably spare no expense, right? It's like there's just an extra level of added safety that just needs to necessarily happen. So that 34 people was maybe a little extra, but it was very, like, we knew that they would, assure our safety. Not necessarily a climb to the top, but for sure assure our safety, right? So, um, yeah, and I also want to, like with Alteza, something really special about that was actually it was their first year of actually having female porters
Oh yeah,
on this trip. And on this first year for Alteza, I mean, there are with female porters for other companies too, but that was the case for Alteza. And they all carry the same weight as all the men do, and it's pretty admirable. Like they all just carry
20
like
kilos.
20 kilos, which is what, 45 pounds
Hmm.
or something like that. Yeah, all the way to the top, on their heads, on their backs. And
And they
they
go
were,
faster than us, and they set up camp before we get there, and they
oh
have
my
like
gosh.
meals ready by the time we arrive at camp.
Yeah, yes, they are amazing. So
Yeah,
I like, wow, it's just incredible. Like
the porters are
I
badass.
reporters are badass. Um, so Sam, do you have questions?
Yeah, sure. So maybe I can ask some questions and we can both answer it.
Okay.
So what inspired you to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, and how did you prepare yourself for the trip? I know that you talked about the training with your coach, but what else did you do to prepare?
Um, well, I mean, I can tell you about how I got inspired to come to Mount Kilimanjaro. Actually, I've been planning this with our another one of our friends, like for maybe the last decade. Brian was one. Anyway, I heard about this trip from this guy I dated, and then he was like, he was in the Peace Corps in Tanzania, and he and my other friend climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, and I was like, that sounds cool. And that was, yeah, literally over a decade ago. And so I've
Oh.
been pushing anyone to come with me to Kilimanjaro, and finally just found the right set of crazy people to come with me. And but yeah, preparing for the trip, uh, there was definitely a lot of training, a lot of um, I don't really like to. I mean, I do a lot of camping. Sometimes I've done backpacking in the past. I did Patagonia, I did, Machu Picchu, things like that. But I've never done an 8-day trip consecutively. And then also, I'm not a big fan of any like 0-degree camping in general. Like if it doesn't involve snow, I'm just like, forget it. It's too much work. First of all, you have to get like all new equipment, like
Hmm.
all the equipment that you have, like on for normal California camping, you have to everything has to be new. Your tent, your sleeping
Right.
bag. So it like we had to get all new outfits. Uh, this is I mean on the peak of Mount Kilimanjaro, I had 4 pairs of pants on, five tops on, and it was just like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know people wore pants two in the same on the same pair of pants,
Yeah.
let alone wear like 4 and still be pretty freaking cold. Um, and just a little perspective, like the top of the mountain was -20 degrees Celsius, which is I think -4 Fahrenheit. Yeah, my house is
It
a
was crazy
constant
cold.
60. My house is a constant 69.
That's hot.
That's how I prefer it, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. So it was crazy. Yeah. How did you prepare for the trip, or what inspired you to climb Kilimanjaro?
Yeah, I would say that what inspired me was number one, I knew that Kilimanjaro was the most achievable of the 7 summits, meaning that it doesn't take technical climbing skills, and the weather isn't as huge of a factor as it is for the other 7 summits. So again, the 7 summits is the highest mountain of each of the 7 continents. So I knew I wanted to get that at some point in my life, and it seemed like it was quite doable. Like the risk of death was not that high if you're adequately prepared. So I was, all in on that. And in terms of preparing for the trip, I had also climbed Mount Whitney. I did Machu Picchu, and in the Machu Picchu trek, went up to 15,000 something feet, and I felt fine there. So I felt like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be able to handle the altitude if we have this many days, and if we take the altitude medicine and all that stuff, and listen to the guides. So I wasn't too concerned for that. I think the main thing was that I wanted my cardio to be better, because I think both you and I share a dislike of training cardio.
I hate cardio. That's true.
Okay, so next question. Describe the physical and mental demands of the climb. How did you overcome those challenges, and how did your prior life experiences prepare you for the challenges ahead?
Oh gosh.
It's
Do
a
you have
lot.
an answer prepared for this? Yeah, you can answer this first.
Yeah, I can go. Physical and mental demands of a climb. I would say that we did the 8-day northern route, which is considered an easier route because you have more days to acclimatize. And if you have more days to acclimatize, you have a lower chance of altitude sickness symptoms, which does a lot of people in. If you have fewer days, you have to climb higher, faster, and in a shorter period of time, and that can mess you up. And altitude sickness symptoms can strike anyone. Even if you've previously been at high elevations before, you can still get it. It doesn't bank up over time. So it's very important to treat that seriously, because altitude sickness can lead to death if untreated and if you have severe symptoms. So you got to take that seriously. In terms of the physical and mental demands, I would say that the first few days of the trip was pretty easy, to be honest. Like, it's only a couple of hours of hiking a day. It's nothing that our group hadn't done before. So it all came down to summit day. Summit day was a challenge. We had to ascend about 4,000 feet, or over 1,000 something meters, in one night. And to put it into perspective, we climbed, I think, 5 hours earlier that day, and we got into camp around maybe 2 p.m. Then we got to eat lunch, and then we slept for maybe 2 hours tops, and we had dinner, and then we had to get ready for the climb a few hours later. So we climbed for 5 hours earlier that day. Then we got to sleep for 2 hours. Then at midnight, we got ready to go, and we set off, I think, at 12:20, if I remember correctly, 12:20 a.m. at midnight. And I was wearing 5 layers on top, 5 layers on bottom, and I could not catch my breath at all. It was rough. Like it, I had, I don't remember being this out of breath for such a long period of time ever in my life. It was to put it into perspective. If you stand up suddenly, you'll get out of breath. That's just the nature of the altitude sickness symptoms. And this was just constant uphill climbing. And we had to get to the top within a certain period of time. Otherwise, there's a cutoff because the ground becomes slushy as the sun rises and melts the ice or the snow, and it can become dangerous. So if you don't make it at a certain point, you have to turn back. And we did see people turning back as we were climbing up higher and higher because it was hard. Like all of us had some crazy symptoms. It was cold. It was freezing. I think it was a constant battle for me and several others in terms of how much we could breathe and whether we wanted our face to freeze because we had these face coverings called balaclavas. And if you put it on, then you're warmer. But if you have it on, it's really hard to breathe. So if you take it off, then you feel like your nose and your mouth and your lips are like slowly freezing, and you're like wondering yourself, am I going to get frostbite or not? Or what's going to happen?
That was the point where I was just like, so what point does your nose tip fall off like those mountaineers, like, you know, and then you turn into like a jack-o'-lantern? Because I was like, I think this is that point. But it was too hard. It was worse for me to breathe through that balaclava than to be exposed to the cold. Like, it was that bad.
Yeah,
So.
it was really Summit Day was really a big challenge. Uh, I think going up, all of us had our own struggles on the summit, and mine personally was being unable to breathe, and I felt bad because I didn't want to hold back the group. We had 7 of us. All of us were pretty like fit, and we had grown pretty close after 7 days on the trail together, and constant talking, great discussions and communication and so on. So I didn't want to hold people back. So I was always pushing myself. I knew that I would make it to the top. Like I was very confident that I would eventually make it. I just wanted to make it at the same time as everyone else.
Yeah. And so I guess like I want to follow a question on that one. So what did it really feel like when you were like, I mentally knew that I was going to be there, but I didn't want to disappoint people? Um, what were those like things in your mind was like, I got to keep pushing? Like, what did you say to yourself?
Oh, that's a good question. I was saying to myself mainly that this is like a team effort, and I like to be a team player, and I don't like letting down people in my group or my team. So I wanted to push myself, and I felt bad that I did well on all the previous days, and I didn't do that well on the summit day. I was like, my goodness, how come I can't catch my breath? But I knew that if I pushed myself enough, that I would be able to keep up. So I just, focused on, I think one of the other members of our group said this best, like, what is the optimal foot placement for your next step? So I was just thinking of the next step over and over and over, and just looking at the person in front of me's feet and where they stepped and whether that was a good place to step or not. And yeah, before we knew it, we were near the top. But I would always look to see like some object on the horizon also, to see how close we were and to use that as a target.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I feel like you're alluding to like this is how you sort of motivate yourself and how you keep your eyes on the goal. So yeah, so I feel like you're saying like you have a combination of like looking to where you need to end, looking at your end goal, as well as um, looking at what next effective step that you can take. Do you think that's how you approach?
Yeah,
I mean,
I
general.
think that's a good description. Yeah, taking the next step because you can see that progress and you can just focus in the moment, but also like looking at the final goal for motivation. And yeah, I think that helped a lot. What about yourself? How did you see it?
Yeah, my struggles for the trip, I mean, was a little bit more extended. I had issues. I think the third day or something like that. I had stomach issues, and I don't know. I kind of think it's actually because actually don't have a gallbladder, so I had some stomach issues on the third day, and so I had diarrhea on the third day, and then when that happens, and then you're already sort of on this mountain where you're doing high altitude hiking and really depleted. Like the energy level, I was just like out of energy, I think, on the third day to get to this next point. I think to me it's like, and then on top of that, on the last day, altitude sickness also hit me as well. Mostly in form of like nausea, wanting to throw up, and and then also on the hike on the last day, you can also hear other people throwing up. So like, because people are everywhere is having like stomach issues too, and it's like that like feeling of like you hear someone throwing up, then you want to throw up. Like
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
the
Like
thing.
a contagious effect.
Yeah, it was a contagious effect plus like the tiredness and all that stuff. I think for me it was like that what what you were saying earlier, like taking the most next effective step was a really great learning lesson, I think, for me. And then this actually came from our other friend who used to be a CrossFit coach, right? So he knows. I think he knows what he's talking about. So and so it was just that I was like, okay, I gotta can I take one more step? Can I just focus on bending my knee, straightening my knee? Because like the steps are very tiny. Like the second I see like a small size boulder, not even a boulder, it's just like a rock, you have to step on top of it. My heart rate shot to like 140. Like that was like the level of altitude. I mean, just perspective, like when you go to sleep, my heart rate was actually over, like about 112. So like once you get like any sort of slight like exercise, like I'm just breathing heavily. So focusing on that next effective step, right? And I felt that too, like I didn't want to disappoint the group, and but I think to me, I saw it more as like if I injured myself, if I didn't, if I wasn't transparent with what I needed,
Right.
and then had to, suddenly get medical attention, then that would be worse. So
Right.
I needed to be really clear about what my needs were, and then take the most most effective step for me. And I had to like kind of logic my way out of some things. I was like, okay, what would happen if I just sat here and and decided to turn around? Okay. I was like, what if I just decided to lay down here? I did have this thought. I was just like, okay, well, I would have to get up within 5-minute time because my body would start freezing. And then two, I wouldn't be here for that long. They would have to start bringing me down. So multiple porters would have to come up and then, potentially carry me down. So I was like playing out the scenarios. And for some reason it helps me be motivated. I'm like, okay,
That's
the next most effective thing for me to do is actually just make it to the top. Because if I stop moving, I will freeze. And they say at the top too, is like you don't want to stay there for more than a max, like about 5 minutes is how much we were allotted to be at the top. Because at this point we also don't have water. We like all our packs froze over, so you're kind of like you have to make it down, right? And so it's going to be very cold if you stand still for more than that amount of time.
Our
So
wires turned to ice.
yes, on our very backs. That never happened to me. I was like, and that felt like like that was spiritually breaking for me. I will say, like to be feeling like you're suffocated and not to have water, like I feel like it's just like your survival instincts are kind of going off. You're just like I don't have what I need in order to survive in this condition right now. And I remember I was like feeling the anxiety was real for me at that point.
Hey, we're going to take a little break, but in the meantime, here's a shameless plug for one of our amazing sponsors. Learn how to invest in commercial real estate the right way. No fluff, just the truth. Retired software engineer turned real estate syndicator Tony Lin is the managing partner of Link Multifamily, where he helps folks invest passively while also teaching aspiring operators the ins and outs of the commercial multifamily space. Here's what one potential investor had to say about Tony's commercial real estate mentorship. Last year, I shadowed Tony on his latest acquisition, a 111-unit Class A property in Dallas, where he showed us exactly how he intended to execute his business plan. It was a great educational experience. Tony Lin and the Link Multifamily team love to share their recipe for success and empower you to do the same. To get in touch with Tony and his team, visit linkmultifamily.com. That's Link, L-I-N-K, Multi, M-U-L-T-I, Family, F-A-M-I-L-Y.com. Now on to the show.
Yeah, it sounds like one of the effective strategies for you was also the optimal foot placement, so focusing on the next step. And also the interesting one was, another interesting one was, you mentioned imagining the worst case scenario and reasoning it out to see that, oh, actually then the best thing to do is just to keep moving and keep going forward towards the goal, because otherwise you just freeze anyway.
Yeah, definitely.
Did that help you stay positive, or did you use any other strategies to keep motivated and in a positive frame of mind?
Yeah, I think that, just like, I think another thing that I was thinking about too was like, I started feeling real fatigue after 16,000 feet, maybe a little bit under that. But at that point, every single step I took was a record-breaking step for me. So I think I was feeling really motivated. I'm like, okay, can I break my my highest elevation ever climbed by this next one step? Because that's record-breaking right there. And so that was motivating. It gave me a positive frame of mind that every step I took was becoming my highest best.
That's a cool realization.
Yeah.
I think one other thing that helped me a lot was knowing that I had a badass crew. Like, all of us were really great, very supportive, and just kind of there for each other. And we all had feats that I was impressed by. For example, the others in the group ran marathons. They're CrossFit coaches. They had done backpacking challenges that I found intimidating. So I thought that having a strong group like this was very motivating for me, because I feel like if I see people struggling a lot more and giving up, that makes it harder for me too. But if I see people always trying their best and pushing through, and also they have all these accomplishments, I feel like that also helps me.
Yeah, and isn't that like an operations thing? Is like you're only fast as your slowest person, right? Or it's I think that's true. Is like you want to keep everyone motivated because you're all in it together. It's like
Right.
You gotta be respectful of that, but also very respectful of when you need to admit, when you need to turn around. It's no disappointment to anyone else. It's I think that there is some honor in admitting where your limits are, and saying that I need to turn around, because you're also like, if you hurt yourself, that's bringing down the whole group too, right? So
Yep. That's true. And people have definitely died chasing the summit, like chasing the dream.
yes,
Call it summit fever. Like, they
yes.
fixate on the goals so hard that they don't have anything left for the way down. And the way down was brutal.
Oh my gosh, it was
We had to
kind of
descend
worse.
7,000 feet. It was insane on the same day.
Yes. Okay. And I will say, okay, so there's the record for climbing Kilimanjaro was actually less than 1 day. Okay, and this was done. How long was it, Sam? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
But anyway, like this guy, same group actually, broke the world. Same group, our tour group, with Alteza. He did the whole thing in 1 day, and since then, people have tried to break his record, and there's a lot of people that have died because of that. And so I think maybe word of caution, don't let your pride overtake, something so important like your own safety, Yeah. And when we were coming down, it's it also every every so often there's a helipad when people get rescued all the time from here, I remember the guy even who blew out both his knees coming down had to be like hoisted with I think like 4 to 6 porters the whole way down. Just
Yeah,
just
that's rough.
gone. Yes.
It's a rough, rocky way down. It's slushy.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
ice and the snow is melting, so and it's gravel or sandy, so it's very slippery, and your knees are, feeling every step of that 7,000-foot descent. That's like
Yes.
3 Mission Peaks, for example. uh,
Yeah.
a little mountain or hill in the San Francisco Bay Area for those who are around, or that's a lot. 7,000 is a lot to descend, and it's really tough on your knees. I mean, and that's all on the same day that we only had 2 hours of sleep for.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, which maybe leads to our next question. And I'll point to you, to Sam, to answer this. I'm thinking about your swollen knees.
Oh yeah.
How did you deal with any setbacks or challenges that arose during the climb, and what strategies did you? Oh, you already asked this one, but
Yeah.
I want to hear about your knee issue and how you kind of overcame that.
Yeah. So I had some knee issues, probably from overuse or too much Muay Thai or something. And it reared its ugly head, I think, during the 4th or 5th day, to the point where I had to wrap it. It was really tough. Uh, my right knee had swollen up a lot more than the other one, and it just hurt with every step. But I knew that we're going to be on the mountain for another I think 3-4 days, so I just had to kind of tough it out. And I think the key is, the more you think about something that's negative, the more it's going to hurt you, or the harder it's going to be. So I just try not to think about it whenever I have like an issue like that. It's rough because with every step it does hurt. But I think the way that I distract myself is through, I'm kind of an extrovert, so it's through conversation. Like if I have someone to talk to, it really helps. You're
Oh
not
my
lost
God.
in your own thoughts.
Sam was asking so many questions on the mountain this whole time. 8 days worth.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no internet, guys.
Yes. I felt like it helped pass, for me, it helps
It did.
pass the time a lot more quickly.
It did. I was telling Sam the most memorable question that he asked was like, "Who's your favorite world leader?" And then all of us decided there are no good world leaders. Essentially, everyone found a flaw in every single world leader. Anyway, that was a kind of funny one.
Yeah. I liked our conversations. It was really nice hearing everyone's different perspectives and getting to know everyone. To me, that's one of the highlights of any kind of trip like this, getting to know the people around you really well, and just really what they're all about, and hearing all these really cool perspectives. It also distracts you from the tough issues that you come across.
Yeah,
So yeah.
that's true.
I think the main challenges for me were just the knee, and also on summit day, the shortness of breath. But the knee on the way down was really rough. I was always worried, like, is it going to give out? Is it going to mess up on me? But the way I dealt with it was like, I would try to compensate using my arms with the hiking poles to take all the weight, and just use all the strategies that I knew for descending. Yeah. How about yourself? I know you had a lot of variety of symptoms. You had the gastrointestinal issues.
Yeah, I had,
You had
I
nausea.
had some nausea. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's about it though. I mean, I think it was you're gonna always have some challenges. I feel like I prepared for it as best as I could. Arrived days early, took medication. You know, we took a longer route, so we did have more time to acclimate. So I think it just sort of hits you, and I think when you have these sort of things, you just need to take your time with it, admit like where you are, and just keep going. So yeah,
That's a good strategy in life anyway. Like, you prepare the best you can, and then you deal with the challenges that arise, because you can never foresee everything, right?
yeah, true.
So, how did you feel when you finally reached the summit of Mount Kili? And what was going through your mind at that moment?
Um, I actually recorded the moment that I actually arrived, and I actually started crying because, like I was saying, it was, it's a spiritual experience for me. It's like to have gone through that. At that point was like, I think 7 hours of hiking or something like that. Just
Mhm.
and negative -4 degree weather, and um, yeah, I think it was like, to me, I feel like there's a lot of things I was hoping that this, like, trip would teach me, and I think that's one of my things I love about traveling is, like, I kinda come with a question, and I kinda leave it open to, like, what is the thing trying to what is the adventure, what is the trip trying to tell me, and certainly this mountain was no exception. I was like, "What is the summit, trying to teach me about myself?" And, uh, I feel like I learned a few things, like, not just camaraderie and, um, beating my personal best, but there are some things that in my life that I work through, on that mountain, you know? And some things I will share, and something I'm going through right now is, like, uh, about decision making, and I maybe this kinda has ties to my API identity, but and old also as an only child too, is, like, I feel like I've been dealing with issues on, like, having resolve, like, making decisions for myself
Mhm.
and and just me, and feeling comfortable with my own decisions. And I think on that mountain, I was just like, "I could die here, and I could have lived my entire life without ever making my own decisions." Like, what kind of life is that?
That's
And
rough.
I Yeah, and, like, of course, like, I make my own decisions, I mean,
Sure.
adult, but, like,
Right.
to me, it's like maybe this is, like, an Asian experience, but a lot of it is influenced by, your parents. Your parents, it's like, like, this is the career you should have. This is the school that you should go to. This is the thing that you should do in this next phase of your life. You should have kids, And at that point, like, have I ever made any decisions on my own or anything like that, right? And it sort of trained me to be in this place where I'm like, okay, my decision making process, this is to be just totally transparent, is like, I have a question, I have a decision I need to make. I ask all the people around me, I take poll, and whichever the highest one is the one that wins. So I'm just like, I'm not sure if I've ever made like a full decision by myself. So on that mountain, I was just like, I had this resolve. I was like, this urgency even. I'm like, yeah, like this trip is teaching me. It's like I need more resolve in my life to be, like, to make my own decisions and be okay with my own failures. And yeah, that's kind of how I felt at the top and in that cry, when I reached the top.
That's a neat realization.
Yeah,
It sounds like you definitely learned some lessons and got a lot out of the experience of climbing the mountain and reaching the top.
yeah. How about you?
I would say that for me, I felt an overwhelming sense of triumph and relief and celebration. Um, it was a big deal to me that I reached the first of the seven summits, maybe the last one, but um, I really felt relieved also that it was finally over. We got to the top, and I could just enjoy the rest of the experience. It was I was kind of worried during the trek itself on summit day, like, man, when are we actually going to reach the top? Will we make it uh, past cutoff time, or what's it going to be like? Or like, will I don't know, uh, lose my breath and be left or be a lot slower? But when we finally got to the top, I I grew stronger as I could see the end. I felt like I got my strength back. I got a lot more energy, and it felt really good. So I felt very emotional at the top, and I think all of us felt really touched and emotional that we all made it together and that we all summited. So it felt celebratory.
Yeah, that's great. Love that.
Um, so Are you planning any future trips? And also, what advice would you give to someone who's considering a trip like Mount Kili or something similar?
Oh God, I don't know. Now that I've been back, I'm like forgetting what it was like because now I kind of want to do the other 7 summits and like it was so
We talked
terrible.
about
And I'm
this
like,
too. We're like,
yeah, and I was like,
how
shoot.
soon will it take to forget how hard it was?
I think we're starting to reach that point now because I'm just like, well, it was, yeah. I mean, it's such a great achievement, and I just love being pushed to the edge like this, you know, and not many trips do that for me anymore. I do travel a lot, so but I think this was one of those trips that really did push me to the edge. Hardest hike I've ever done, highest altitude ever done. Longest time camping out like this, and first time in well, actually no, not my first time in Africa, but certainly this deep in Africa. So
Mhm.
I think, yeah, you know, I'm tempted to consider the other 7 summits. I potentially going to toward the end of the year to go to Germany, Oktoberfest, but maybe doing the Dolomites or some parts of Bavaria with the same group. But yeah, you know, um I think there's going to be a lot more bucket list items now because traveling with these guys, like for this whole trip, my God, it's like they're all such world travelers. I like had to write down 10 more trips.
Mhm. There were
I have,
spots that I never heard about that I was like,
yes.
oh wow, that was great.
Well, I mean, this trip, I mean, we will travel the pair of already world travelers. They took the entire year off, and they're world travelers. And then you and our other friend Bo are divers, and so they were talking about diving this whole entire time. Now I have to do Indonesia. Was it? Where's the part where's do I see hammerhead sharks?
Hammerheads. I actually haven't seen hammerheads, so I don't know. I heard there's a place in. Oh no, it's Galapagos. Galapagos
Galapagos,
Island.
yes,
Yes.
yes. I am obsessed with these also, like, you know, animal tours. I don't know what the formal name is, but we went to the safari afterwards, which was just the perfect way to like veg out after
Mhm.
being hiking for so long. Is like sit 5 days in a car with
Yeah.
Wi-Fi and like a thing of beer in the back, and it was just like a pop top, and then you're right in the face of like the biggest animals, like all, like we saw elephants, cheetahs,
Mhm.
lions, like then they were right in your face, and we saw
Yeah.
all of them. So, and a really great experience too, for those that have not done it. We even saw these uh, rare black rhinos,
Mhm.
who like there's only 25 in that area, and they're endangered. So they're very far away, but very lucky to see
We're
them.
very, very lucky.
Yes,
Saw that in
yeah,
a span of 3 days too. Everything.
yes.
We saw the big five. You know, the hippos, the buffalo, rhino, elephant, and there's a couple lions eating like not a fresh kill, but like eating right outside our windows. So maybe like I don't know, 7 feet away or something like that.
It was amazing. Yeah, and we saw the leopard. Did you see leopard? Yeah, leopard as
Yeah.
well, which was very hard to spot. So,
Mhm.
um, so I guess this is a plug for Alteza because they took us to both places, and we saw all the animals and then some. So we were very fortunate to do that, and even had a couple days to meet the people of Tanzania. So that was really awesome.
Yeah, that was a really great experience. Cannot
Yes.
uh, uh, cannot recommend it more. It's definitely a trip of a lifetime. I think
So
for me.
what
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I said, your future trips. I wanted to ask.
Yeah, I think for me, I have now been to 40 plus countries, and when I travel, I like to get an experience of awe and wonder. Like I want to feel that experience of wow, this is something that I've never experienced before, something I've never tried before, and I feel like a kid all over again. Because you know sometimes you've seen like a ton of museums, you've seen a ton of temples, you've seen a ton of like mountains. You want to see something that will really astound you, something that's very different. So that's kind of what I look for. So my seventh continent would be Australia. So I want to complete the seven continents. So I'm planning to do a diving liveaboard trip for a week at the Great Barrier Reef, and then maybe 2 weeks in the south of New Zealand. So that'll be one trip. And in May, I'm going to Vietnam to explore the world's biggest cave. I've had this one on my sights for years now. It was first discovered in 2009 and only opened to the public in 2013. So I've been wanting to do this for a while. But it's going to be, I think, 4 days inside the cave. You'll be camping inside the cave, and then 2 days in the jungle. And then immediately after that, another 5 days in a different cave system. So that'll be fun.
Well, that sounds really awesome. Also, please invite me. Also, wait, are we gonna do Everest or at least Everest Base Camp?
Yes, we'll do at least Everest Base Camp. I don't know about Mount Everest itself, but
Yeah.
maybe Everest Base Camp next year.
God. Yeah, but at least it's a very short list after Kilimanjaro of how many higher ones are after that. But thank God, because
Cool.
I'm not sure how much I can endure after that. But I did hear for Everest, it's the flight. Everest Base Camp, it's the flight that is the thing
That's
that is
very
most terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe
The
I'll just take
airport at Lukla is scary.
oh geez, maybe I'll just take an extra strong Benadryl or something like that and just sleep through
Just
this
sleep through
thing.
it.
Yeah.
Make sure you
Okay, well,
prepare your last will and testament.
right. Oh, that's already been prepared. Yeah, I don't go on these things. I don't go on these things without that. So thanks so much for being on this podcast with me, Sam, and of course, being the kind of guy that I can do this kind of adventure with. So,
Thank you.
are you okay? Well, so I want to hear maybe one other thing. Actually, did we tell people about what they should consider to do something like this for Mount Kili?
I think we didn't cover that, so maybe let's chat about that a little bit.
Okay, very quickly.
Main advice would be to just plan it out and do it, because everyone who puts it off later regrets it. You only have like so long to do this kind of stuff. Obviously, everything's a balance. Don't just like quit everything and go forever. You do need to, have financial freedom and stability at some point. But it's really great to have these experiences that really expand your world and your life. And, like for me, it's something that I look at and say, well, I remember this experience in a few months, a few years. If I can say yes to that, then that's a good experience to do, because that's something that you'll look back on, you'll cherish it, and you'll be like, wow, 10 years ago, I'm really glad that I did this. And so, yeah, my main advice here is just to plan it out and do it. You can ask other people for advice for the logistics or for what you should consider, but the main thing is just to find a way to get it done.
Yeah.
How about yourself?
Yeah, I would say be really ready for the altitude. That is it. It's like be really mentally ready for that, actually, more so anything. But yes, I'm also like measure twice, cut once kind of person. So prepare. All right. Well, I think that's a great note to end on. So thank you so much for being here, Sam. I'll
Thank you.
catch up with you next time.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening. Here's one last note from our lovely sponsors.
Hey, SARE ladies, listeners, Tony the CPA dude here, also your resident SARE tax bro. And with your lovely host, they came up with some great ideas. So Miss Tiffany and Miss Anita here came up with the tax workout plan. So we're gonna help you get cut up on your taxes, also gonna help you cut up on your own body. So just like working out, taxes is a monthly thing. You can't ignore it, otherwise you're gonna fall off the cliff. So with the code SARE ladies, we're gonna give you a nice healthy discount, and we're also gonna give the SARE ladies a kickback just to help support their podcast. I've had a fun time being on their podcast a couple times this year. They've done great. I really wanna see them blow up in 2023. So with your support with this creative tax workout plan and also a workout plan in general, we're gonna help you transform your life in 2023. So mention the code SARE ladies when you talk to me. You can email me at Tony@thecpadude. Text me at 928CPA dude. TikTok's the CPA dude. Website's thecpadude.com. Everything's the CPA dude. So SARE Ladies is your special code here, and let's make this year great.
Thank you for tuning in to the SARE Ladies podcast hosted by Anita Wong and Tiffany Lee. Special thanks to Subtle Asian Real Estate, LLC, our parent company.
If you enjoyed our show, please leave us a review or follow SARE Ladies on Spotify and Instagram at Subtle Real Estate. You can also click on our show notes to subscribe to our newsletters to stay on top of our news and upcoming events. Until next time, Pod Squatters.